Hi, my name is Sylvia Mochabo, and welcome to Everyday Woman. I am a mother, a graphic designer, and a brand consultant by profession. I run a foundation called Autistic for special needs persons, where I champion for inclusion of persons with neurodevelopmental disabilities. Why I do this, I am a mother of 3, my eldest being 16, and the other 2 of my children are on the spectrum, that is autism spectrum disorder, and that is why I do what I do. I'm a Rotarian, where I serve as the Assistant Rotary Public Image Coordinator. That in short is ARPIC. I cater for Kenya, Eritrea, South Sudan, and those are how many? Those are the countries that I look after for public image under Rotary International. I also serve as a board member in the National Council. I'm a board director at the National Council for Persons with Disability here in Kenya. I was born in Huruma in Nairobi, which is a slum on the east side of the country. And I'm a second born of 4. So I have a brother and 2 sisters. My brother is in the UK, my brother is in the US, my sister is in the UK, and my younger sibling is still here. I went to Salama Primary School when I started. Then I was taken to boarding in class 4 in Chogoria Girls Primary School. From there, I went to Alliance High School. I remember that was a tussle because I was like, I want to go to a Catholic school. You know, when you're growing up, you have all these mixed emotions. But I thank God that I actually went to Alliance. I get to say that statement, right? Now that everyone always says and is up against, oh, we went to Alliance, but it is a fact. And why we are proud of being alumni is because Alliance taught me a lot, how to be independent, the diversity in society, because as a national school back then, we had people coming from all types of backgrounds, culturally, socially, and that integrates you and makes you learn. And then the principles that we were taught while we were there actually mold you to be an all-rounded woman. And I think that is one of the greatest things that I will never forget. And one of the things I remember Mrs. Karanja used to tell us was freedom comes with responsibility. So we were allowed to do so many things, mingling with Alliance High and going for movies, going for socials, you know, those things that a parent would cringe when you hear your teenager is doing. But you know what that did? It molded us to be women who are not scared, who can speak up, who can have a conversation with the gentleman without feeling like, oh my God, you know, those shy. So that gets out. By the time you get to the real world, you know what you're dealing with. You've had to, you know, have conversations and see different viewpoints. From there, I did fine arts. Actually, I'm a talented artist, so I draw. I'm not a fan of painting, but I can paint when forced to. So I've taken art as what I am passionate about and what I focus on. So I didn't go to campus, contrary to what everyone believes. You have to be a doctor, you have to be. So sometimes you have to go off the grain. So we were the first lot. For me, in Alliance, we were given career talks. And as an art student, we had a guest who came and told us where the future of art is going. And that's why I opted to do graphic design and branding. And from there, I fell out, of course, with my dad because he wanted me to go do medicine. And I was like, no, I'm not going to, because it's not what I'm passionate about. So I am a go-getter, and I think that sets me apart also. And with that, I, of course, had to now, he was very strict. If you're not doing what I'm saying, you have to school yourself. So I found myself in the streets of Nairobi hawking. I worked at the EPZ Castle's packing soap to just save up and get sufficient fees to go to school. And when I got a bit, my mom, there was the time when there was retrenchment, so she was retrenched. So she gave me her savings to top up. And within 3 months, I got a scholarship, so that saved me. And I think a year and a half into my work is when I decided to get a job to just supplement, because of course the higher you get into college, the more expensive it becomes. And I couldn't, whatever scholarship I had wasn't full, it was partial. So there was, of course, responsibilities going to everyday, runnings. And from there, I started working at the Olive Marketing and Publishing Company. I started as a secretary. where I scaled up to a graphic designer, to the manager. Then I got poached from there. I worked at TNET as a manager, where it was a printing press. So that's where, with the what working in a small firm did for me was it enabled me to run the boss's diary. It enabled me to learn the basics of how an office is run. And what this later on helped me with is being able to run a business as an entrepreneur, because I had to learn how to do taxes, all the statutory payments that you have to do. And these are the basic essentials of what do you call this, of a business that most of us, when we quit and start doing side hustles, we forget that there is that responsibility of rent and statutory payments. We just see the glitter of I am a boss. So that molded me and prepared me for the future at that point. Then when I got into TNET, at TNET I was a manager, so I had to learn operations of the machinery. This is something we don't learn in school, because we just hear there is printing. So now I had to be down, understand how to calculate papers, how to calculate inks levels and machines that are the big ones, the small ones. So that getting down and dirty on the ground actually gives you the exposure that you can't just get with the easy, just go and scale up. So I appreciate that. From there I worked with Elite Pre-Press, where I was also taken in as a manager. And the good thing, when you give it your all, I did not have to submit my CV. I was referred to TNET. When I was at TNET, I was working with Elite indirectly. And I went there on my terms, wait until I'm ready. You know, ethics matter. How you exit, also your workplace matters. So I needed it to be very cordial when I was leaving. Served my term, and I went to Elite, where I was the manager. So I was running the pre-press. So that was a new thing I was also learning. So I was learning marketing. I was in charge of everything: marketing, graphic design, sales, accounts, bookkeeping, and the pre-press. So that also built my confidence, because my boss would actually create connections, then I go seal the deal with him and then make sure the job is done and delivered. And I think I brought in like 500% turnover increase, which made me very proud. And it also made me realize I actually can do this, because most of my clients followed me wherever I went. So I realized there was something about me. So I had to believe in myself, because a part of me was like, because at this time, of course, I'd gotten married. I got married I didn't get to finish my college. I finished later when I was doing evening classes. So I got married in 2006, and work-life balance, of course, had to come, because I got a child immediately after. And at TNET, I was actually working. My hubby is the one who referred me. My ex-husband is the one who referred me to that job. And then now I moved on, of course. And then as I was working at Elite, we had a side, but I declared in my office that be aware that I have a side business with my ex at that point. And it was very cordial. I don't like fighting. I don't like contradiction. So I always made sure that the communication was there. At Elite, it got to the point when I gave birth to Andrew, who shortly after started getting convulsions. And now it meant that I had to spend more time in hospitals, because there was so many complications after his birth. And that's when now I had to quit my job at Elite and now start running a side business. It was not the easiest thing, to say the least, because there was fear. I was so afraid, especially when you've run a business and you see all the payments that have to be done. So that's the point where you need to really believe in your talent, your relationship, your social capital. So that's what I was holding on to. The people who've entrusted me with work all this time. But the one thing I did, if it was clients from my former employer, I'd categorically say, please talk to him before you come to me. And I think that earned me my respect in that space. And I've had long-term relationships to date with clients. We're talking about over 18 years of serving clientele. And that's when I started Tech Hub Services, which rebranded to Tech Hub Holdings. And over time, juggling between being a mother of a special needs child. And I remember the day I was told that my child had special needs is the same day I was told, the next day, I think, or 2 days later, I was told that I was pregnant with my last born. So yeah, that really threw me off. I was not ready for that, because I see it's a new business. So it was like having 3 children at a go. And of course, that also brings tension in marriage at that point. And there was a lot going, and I had to make a decision. So 6 years after the marriage, I decided to just let it go, because you have to choose your battles. I believe sometimes you have to choose yourself. I opted to choose me and my children at that point. So of course filed for divorce, and it was granted within a very short time because it was very clear. And it was raising my own kids, because when I walked out, my child was 3 weeks old. I had given birth to him through CS. I had had an appendectomy 2 weeks after my delivery. So I was not in that state of mind. Before I got Andrew, I had lost a child in between, which sent me into a space I was thinking I was not ready for. I feel like there was too much going on in my life. I was just I was at that point of, self-discovery, and I fell into depression, actually. I remember I attempted suicide. I was not successful. I believe God decided I'm not done with you yet. So that is one of the experiences that I learned, that you really need a society around you. But you see, the problem is, most of the time as women, the minute we get married, everyone puts you aside. So you end up being alone, and you end up being with only your husband's friends as your friends. So even if you're going through stuff, you find that you don't have that support system. And also the other thing was, when I was going through this, most of my friends had not gotten married. So there was that hard state of who now becomes your friends. It was a struggle restarting life. I remember I used to have 1 meal a day so that my kids can have a 3-square meal. And being special needs children, like my children were lactose intolerant, you have to buy very expensive milk. And then at that point, I couldn't afford it. And then Andrew needed medication to control his convulsions. And it was tough. I got notice of disconnected electricity, notice of evacuation, but you don't give up. And the other thing that I learned from that is friendship. The people who say they're your friends by word only, because so many people would say, if you need anything, you can count on me. And when you call them, that's when you realize it was just a statement to make you feel good at that point. Because every time you call, I can't. And the hardest thing is, like, someone will tell you they can't. Even it was just basic, something as small as, give me 500, I just buy milk for the boys. I'll give you in the next 2 days when a client pays. And then the next minute you'll see someone has bought something else, and you're like, it was for the children, it was not for me. We're supposed to be friends. You're supposed to be there for me. We've been friends for long. But sometimes, they don't have that responsibility, and that's one thing sometimes you have to learn. It's by choice for someone to help you. So that taught me to be very, very independent. And if anything, if I call out for support, I have to be able to do it myself and make sure of that. Later, I expanded. I got into BNI. I took time out and joined Alabastron and worked on myself, because sometimes you remember you carry so much burden, all this pain from everyone, from a broken marriage, from childhood, where someone had taken advantage of me and I couldn't talk to anyone. It all comes piling up, and it messes up your relationships, because even the things that sometimes we hear in school, at home, when you're told you're not enough, you're stupid, you can't do it, we package it. What we don't realize, it affects us in the future. So I took time in 2015 to deal with me as Sylvia. Who am I? What do I want? Will I let my broken social life define who I am? And I had to come out of that shell and love me for who I am, take myself, self-care. The only people I remember, I had my closest friend, and I had my dad would come in every morning. But then you have to be content, like, now with the social media, it will be just on Facebook. But having that actual friend to stand by you was one thing that, if I say through my hardships, was the hardest, to find someone who stand by you. So you learn to just believe in you and pick yourself up. And then I called, as a Rotarian, I joined Rotary after I did my self-work. I joined Rotary because I was now ready to step out of my shell. And in Rotary, I found a new family, to say that, and service, because I wanted to help. I'm a natural nurturer. So I wanted to have that where I can put my energy. And of course, I had my networks, which was helping my business, because it was a young business at that point. And I found mentors also who have now helped me scale up my business. I joined Business Network International, where now I got so much into it that I learned. I got a mentor in business. I spread out. So from Tech Hub Services, I rebranded to Tech Hub Holdings. Then I demarcated that I had Tech Hub Creations for design and branding and PR and communications. I have tech events because I found myself so much in the event space, and those feed into each other. If I get an event, then I brand it, of course. We find that synergy. By 2019, I lost 2 of my friends in the span of 1 year. So every time I looked at this photo of the 3 of us, and they were like, that very successful one, achieved, taking care of their parents, very prayerful, I kept asking myself, oh my God, I am next. What do I have to show for my life? What have I done? Because when I was going through hardships, my relationship with God practically ended because I could not understand how God could be so cruel and let me go through all these things. I kept questioning why. Why do I have 2 special needs kids? Like, one is not enough. And I got my answer. One day I decided to go to Consolata just for the sake of the kids to grow in that space. And this lady walks up to me and tells me, God says he loves you. And I'm like, do these things really happen? Like, you're kidding. I went and told my mom, I was like, can you imagine this woman walks up to me and tells me this? She's like, God talks to us in different ways. Then now I really now focused on that. What is this he's trying to say? Every book I opened, it was about speak up. It was about less fortunate. So that's how I got drawn to find out what it is. So one day after deep prayer, there was this Psalms 31, 8 and 9. Speak up for those who cannot speak for themselves and ensure justice is done. So, and that's where now I got my purpose of, I knew, I went to the UK to try and stay with my sister and align my head. Because for me, I thought I was actually dying. Because when all your inner circle, and I was like, what's my purpose? Everywhere I went, it was about special needs, this person, special needs that. So I just took a book and started taking notes and asking questions, how it was done in the UK. How did they end up with systems that actually function? Because my sister's child also has Down syndrome. So he was in a special school. I was able to go to the school. So I took about 1 month away. I just told my mom, just take care of my kids and the nanny. I brought in my grandma and I told them I need time to figure out what it is that I want. And I'm glad for that support because I would not have been able to find myself. And when I came back, it was clear. I remember I did an interview and what they wrote as the title was, when my son first called me mom at 5, Andrew called me mom at 5, Even right now, we still struggle with communication, but that journey was the hardest, And then that verse made sense as to why. Remember, I was questioning God, why too? But it was 2 very different. And that's how Andy Speaks for Special Needs Persons came up. Because one incident where Andrew was walking around with nails in his shoes, but because he was nonverbal, he couldn't tell me. He was just uncomfortable. So I thought, how many more children go through things? I see him being bullied. I see him being rejected. I feel the pain, but he can't tell me, I want to join these kids. I want to do this with these other kids. So that's where the name Andy Speaks comes from. So at Andy Speaks, what my focus now is championing for inclusion, integration of special needs children and their caregivers. Because the things we go through in matters education, health, social welfare, social protection, employment, women have to hide their children. Women can't work because 80% of their life, their children depend on them, and you have to be home. And that is how I started this journey of advocacy for special needs children. And I was using the skill sets that I acquired as a graphic designer, communication, social media. That's what I used to raise awareness. So then a friend of mine, one day we were doing Sunshine Rally. It's a Rotary event where we bring about over 7,000 special needs kids for one day. I figured I'm not alone. There are all these other parents. What more can I do? So that is one of the things that advised that. But then how do I get the government to listen to us? So my friend asked me, have you thought of modeling? We were actually at KTN. I finished an interview about Sunshine Rally. We were taking photos outside and she asked me that question. I'm like, I'm old, I have children, what do you mean? And then she was like, actually there is a Mrs. Docket. I'm like, I'm not a Mrs., I'm a divorcee. We always give ourselves excuses in life, but it takes that friend, this new set of friends that I found who saw the potential. And she told me, no, I know a friend who did it. She called her up immediately, booked an appointment. We went, they called South Africa. And apparently there was a space now for divorcees or mothers and single parents who could join. And that's how I ended up joining Africa Pageants. So I'd never done modeling in my life. I was rejected at 18 when I tried to be Miss World. I was told I was like 1 inch short or something like that. I know I was broken and I shelved that. But you know, when I was doing self-mentorship, we were asked to write all the dreams we had. And in 2015, I'll never forget. I still have that yellow manila paper. I indicated everything. And that was one of the things that I wrote. And in 2020, when I looked back, after I went for Africa pageants, and I came back with 3 titles, because I came back as Miss Africa United Nations, Miss Africa Elite 2020, and Elite Face of Africa. Those are things, if someone told me, I would not dream of. I came back breaking 3 records that have never been broken in the 20 years of that organization. I had 19 awards. You know, when you sit back, but it took one person, one other woman who believed in me to push and create the way for me to be there. And now I took that as my platform to speak up now, the way the Bible said. And I've been serving, I'm the longest serving. I'm on my 3rd year of Miss Africa Elite. Oh, 1 year is thanks to COVID. And this year, because last year when I went back to hand over the crown, I came back with it, plus the Queen of Africa. And then now in August, I'll be going to Canada to represent our continent as Miss Africa United Nations. So it's great responsibilities balancing all this. But what has it done? When God puts something, He gives you the way. Because with that platform, I got the audience. You know, one thing I'm always proud of, or one thing that I'm like, I wrote to the First Lady, Her Excellency, Mrs. Uhuru Kenyatta. And she responded, Margaret responded. And I was like, oh my God, I have from the Office of the President a letter. That's something I would never have thought of. I sit also in KICD in the academic committee. The curriculum, how inclusive is it? How many atypical children, as we call them, normal children, understand what the divergent ones require? You know, there's typical and atypical. So do we understand, how do we coexist, how do we get integrated? So just general guidance so that when these decisions are being made, you're like, hey, you're forgetting this, this will not work, this will work. Let's look at it in a different angle, and that way we'll be able to make a difference. And that's how I am where I am right now. And I'm currently now engaged, which was like a dream I knew, because everyone in society tells you, which man is going to take 3 kids? 3 boys, because that's something that was sung to me until I also started believing that no one will take you with your children, and you have special needs children. It's one of the things that you resent yourself to, and you're just like, I'll be okay the rest of my life by myself. But as God would have it, yeah. So I think it's 3 weeks now, and I'm super excited about it, and I know God is a God of second chances. You believe in yourself, you work towards it, stick to your principles and what you believe in. Trust the process. You can reach me on Twitter, that is Moraa Sylvia. On Instagram is Sylvia Mochabo, and on Facebook, yours truly, Sylvia Moraa Mochabo. Or actually, I'm full. So you can follow me on Facebook or follow my page, that is Miss Africa Elite, and in brackets Sylvia Moraa Mochabo.